Yeah, so here's my thought, right?
All right.
Med school and this whole pre-med hype is honestly, I think, the biggest drain and sink of smart people. And it's it's like, as a society, like, we are wasting so much talent, so much,
To like
so
kind of
many
like a
smart
repetitive
people
work in a way.
to something that doesn't necessarily generate any innovation or
Mm.
doesn't necessarily push our society forward. And I'm not saying that being a doctor or whatever isn't a good thing to do. I think we need smart people in these
Yeah.
positions, right? Because it's important. Like, people need to stay alive. People need basic health care. But the sort of and I'm not saying there's no innovation being done from the medical industry. There's a lot. There's a ton.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's so many more opportunities beyond med school, right? And just the fact that all of the super smart people end up going into med school not because they want to be a doctor, but because of the social cloud of the position and
The
because of
stability,
the
too.
monetary rewards of that position is just a drain. It's a drain on it's an intellectual drain of smart people in our society. And again, I don't mean this in the sense that, like, people who like, everyone who goes into the medical industry is only doing it for social clout. Like,
Yeah,
I
of course.
know people, and people, a lot of people are super genuine, and most people are really genuine. But I just think, like, if society promoted other career paths and hyped up other opportunities as much as it did the medical system, like, we would be able to put smart people into positions where they can innovate in a much sort of a much more efficient way, right? Like,
Mhm.
if society promoted startups and entrepreneurship more, like, think about how much innovation can be done, like, by all these smart people, right? But no, like high school barely talks to you about how to start your own project, barely talks to you about how to start your own business. Like, you had to go through extracurriculars to find that out, or you had to
Yeah.
find that out based on your own research or your own ambitions or talking with people, right? But for some reason, like high school is like, oh, like, being a doctor is awesome. Like, right?
We need
And
more
like,
of
when you think
those.
about it,
Yeah.
like, all those, like, kindergarten things or like elementary school, like, projects where it's like, oh, talk about, like, what you want to become in the future. Like, they never talk about, like starting your own project or starting your own company. It's always like doctor, firefighter, policeman, teacher, like,
Astronaut.
right? Like, there needs to be a
Hmm.
change in the sort of status quo and sort of the way society labels certain career prospects. And I think, a lot of people are just at the end just haven't had exposure to this, right? And
Mm.
to them it's like, oh, well, like, I'm smart, and the way that I can make the biggest contribution is in med school, right? And again, you do an absolutely huge contribution to society, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
But, like, again, from a global perspective, like, moving away from my personal bubble and just thinking of the world and thinking of the world from a utilitarian perspective, like, how much total value can be generated in the world. You can generate so much more value if these smart people decide to go into a different industry and decide to innovate or create new products, right?
An idea I always think of, for example, radiology. Radiologists, you need a lot of brains to do that, even though it seems very simple. But let's say radiologists with this mindset of entrepreneurial innovation, they develop AI to just completely solve
Exactly.
radiology, basically. And
Absolutely.
a
Absolutely.
lot of medicine can be innovative with, for example, artificial intelligence coming along. Like, medicine could be revolutionized, and it takes engineers to do that
100%.
more
100%.
than medical practitioners.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, and I
Hmm.
think even like even within the medical, like you said, even within the medical community, there can be more of, like, an entrepreneurial spirit to the way
An
classes are
engineering
taught.
way to see at it,
To the exactly, it's
a
like,
scalable way.
just, yeah, it pains me to see sort of the industry just, like, stagnating, right? Because that's what it is, right? You go in, right? You do all this, like, climbing and personal growth, and then once you get in, all you end up doing is probably growing just a bit. But you end up you end up doing sort of these repetitive tasks and not necessarily innovating on anything and not necessarily creating anything new. And again, like I just want to say, like this, I'm 100% generalizing here.
Yes.
Right? Like there are people who do this in this community.
Yes.
I'm just saying there needs more of it, right? There needs more of it.
Elon Musk kind of said something like that. I remember like too many smart people going into law and not enough engineering. The idea is
law
that,
school as well. Law school as well.
Yeah. Don't spare them. Don't spare them.
People.
But people doing like non-scalable jobs, like immense talented people doing non-scalable work.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I guess the governmental incentives, like the government plays a huge role in if they can somehow change the financial, because the stability and the financial incentive is, I think, the biggest reason why a lot of the talented people just go into medicine, because they want that stability. They don't want to worry about money.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question of stability. It's a question of awareness, of exposure. It's a question of like feeling confident, because like you said, stability, right? Like it's so much safer to just go into med school.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're pretty much gonna be fine until you retire. But if you decide to start your own project, like there's no stability in that at all, and a lot of people don't have the confidence to do that. You know, that's something that you can raise more awareness on. You can bring more exposure on. You can show stories of how it's ultimately paid off.
Yeah.
And even if you do fail, like there's so much personal growth that you gain through it. And it doesn't mean that, you know, you can't go back into doing something else, right? It's like it's not a situation where it's like you win or you lose, right? It's more of a situation where like this is an opportunity for you to do something incredible and for you to also learn a lot through it. And then if it doesn't work out, you can always do other things, right? Like life isn't just a binary situation, right? Whether it's one or it's a zero, if it's med school or if it's the streets, right? It's not like that.
This constant reinvention also, it's a theme that comes around so often from my entourage. You could say reinvention. People always reinventing themselves. I think we need more stories like that, but also, as you said, well, as I said, I think, but like more like the government should somehow like kind of shift the attention to the long-term perspective. Let's say they invest huge amounts into research, and then in the medical research, for example, this could revolutionize the industry and then bring benefits that we can't even foresee how big they might be.
Exactly.
To learn the full story on how David Chow left Harvard on the gap year to travel Canada while building a social media app, go to episode 10 with David Chow.